So welcome everyone. Welcome to Intro to Flamenco Guitar. Let me introduce myself quick. My name is Zach and I'm a music teacher here on TakeLessons.com. I specialize in classical Spanish guitar and flamenco guitar, and that's why you guys are here today, is to be introduced to the art of flamenco and how we can apply it onto the guitar. So just a rundown of how the class works. There's a Q&A option and there's a chat option as well. If you guys have any questions at all, please send them in whenever you feel like, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. There's also a raise hand option if you want to get my attention as well. So I have a PowerPoint we're going to go through, and we're going to go over some brief history of flamenco and to introduce you to what flamenco actually is. And then the last half or so, we're going to go into playing flamenco, a real basic introductory piece to introduce you to flamenco. I'm also going to send in the chat right now, I'm going to send you a Google Doc right here. So you guys can click this document and you can follow along with me as I teach. This is a page out of my, my guitar method book. You guys are welcome to print this out and keep it. This is my gift to you guys for coming in today. And that has all the musical material that we will be covering today in class. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen, and let's go ahead and get started. All right, welcome again, everyone. Bienvenidos todos, welcome. This is Intro to Flamenco Guitar. My name is Zach, and I am a classical and flamenco guitarist here on TakeLessons.com. Okay, these are the objectives that we have for our class today. The first thing is you'll be able to understand the origins of flamenco and some brief introductory history of the art. We're not going to go into major historical details, but just so you understand flamenco and what it means. You'll learn different methods of holding the guitar comfortably. You'll learn how to position the left and right hands on the guitar without building unnecessary tension. You'll learn how to strum the guitar with fingers, because in flamenco we do not play with picks, so you'll be learning to use your entire hand. You'll learn about your first flamenco palo or style, which we call the rumba, and then we're going to play an introductory rumba together if you got your guitars, with some easy chords. All right, let's start with some brief history of flamenco. So flamenco is a folkloric art form that comes from southern Spain in a region that we call Andalusia. So if you take a look at the picture, the left side of the picture, the upper left, that's the entirety of Spain, is that outline there. So the very south, that's bolded in gold color, that is Andalusia. So a lot of people think that flamenco is the entirety of Spain, but it actually isn't. It's purely a southern Spanish tradition. And flamenco reflects the emotions of the Romani gypsies and the landscapes of Spain, and we'll talk about that in a second. But you can see here's the south of Spain, and these are some of the big cities where flamenco originated, like Granada, Sevilla, Cádiz, Jerez de la Frontera, all these little dots here. This is where flamenco truly started. And like I said, this is a gypsy-influenced music. So the Romani gypsies came from the north of India and the Rajasthan area. So they left their original homelands, and then they eventually ended up in Andalusia, and that's where they settled. So they brought with them all these interesting rhythms that came from like the Middle East and India, and they brought them over with them. One of the biggest defining historical points, though, was the Moorish invasion of the year 711. So the Moors from Morocco invaded Spain in the year 711, and they actually conquered quite a bit of the country. And because of this, Andalusia became really its own country. It was completely dominated by the Moors, and because of this, the architecture of Andalusia is very Arabic and Moorish looking. The dialect is different, the Andaluz dialect of Spain, that sounds almost like a mix of Spanish and Arabic. And this was a very defining characteristic, and especially because the Moors did not treat the gypsies very well. lots of slavery, lots of persecution of the gypsies. They were really treated like second-class citizens. They weren't very respected. The first flamenco is what we call cante flamenco. And cante, for those who don't know Spanish, I'll be translating everything in Spanish, by the way. Cante means singing. So the first flamenco was these really profound, deep songs, what we call cante hondo. Cante hondo means singing from the gut. It's not like today, like our pop singers, our rock singers that like to sing from the throat. Cante hondo and flamenco singing is very deep in the gut. When you hear it, it almost sounds like painful, almost. Very expressive but profound singing. After the singing, that's when the dance came in. And it was really just to accompany the singer, and also what we call palmas, which is hand claps. If you ever listen to flamenco, you hear these hand claps that are in a rhythm. And that's just for something for the dancers to follow along with. But singing first, and then the dance. The guitar was actually the last thing to be introduced. And a lot of people think, like, well, wouldn't it be the first because of how prevalent it is in flamenco? No, the guitar didn't come around until the 1800s. 1860s when Antonio Torres made the first classical guitar. There are other instruments, but the guitar was actually the last thing to be introduced. So you can see this is a very ancient style of music that goes back over 1,000 years. This chart here is one of my favorite charts. So a lot of people think that flamenco is really one style of music, but it actually isn't. Flamenco is an umbrella term. There are actually over 50 different palos, and a palo means a style of flamenco. If you translate palo, literally it means a branch or a stick on a tree, because we like to think of flamenco as a big tree with all these branches that come off of it. So all of these here are different palos of flamenco. And all of them sound different. They come from different regions of Spain, or they come from different emotions and different gypsy peoples at the time. So they all sound different. For example, let's say I want to play this one right here. This is called seguidillas. Seguidillas is one of the more ancient styles of flamenco. It talks about, it's one of the darkest ones as well. It talks about death and persecution of the gypsies. And if I play it, it sounds like this. So you hear how dark this tone is. But then let's say I go over to alegrías. And the word alegrías literally means joy or happiness in Spanish. And if I play that one, it sounds like this. So really contrasting emotions, right? We have a really deep, dark, depressing style of flamenco, and then we have a really uplifting, happy style. So it all depends on where in Spain it came from and the people that played it. And some of these as well are also only played at certain times of the year. For example, up here we have campaneros and villancicos. Those are actually flamenco style Christmas carols that are only played during the Navidad at Christmas time. So really 50 different styles. So we have quite a variety in flamenco. Very briefly, I'm going to talk about flamenco techniques. I'm not going to teach these fully in this lesson because that would take a long time, and these deserve their own lessons. But I just want to show them to you so you kind of understand the playing style of flamenco. So you might have noticed the first one, rasgueado, that I was playing in the, where we flick our fingers to get these really fast strokes. And then there's variety. We have alfapua, which came from the Moorish influence, the oud players, which was the Arabic lute they used to play with their thumbs this way, so this is a Moorish picture. We have picado, all these different picks. We have arpeggios. tremolo. This repeating notes. So I just wanted to very briefly show them to you. These are the very basic techniques that you learn in flamenco. Okay, let's start with some technical stuff. And even if you're advanced on the guitar, you've been playing for a little bit, I hope this stuff helps you. So let's start with how to sit with the guitar. So I'm going to be going back and forth between the pictures and showing myself. So the first picture that we have, the black and white picture, that's the old school method of holding a flamenco guitar. So you can see that he has his both legs flat on the ground, and he's actually elevating the guitar like this, actually holding it straight up in the air. And the reason why he can do this is because flamenco guitars are very light. It feels like they only weigh like 2 pounds or so. I can play this position, but it's not my favorite. And if you don't have a flamenco guitar, I don't recommend this posture because it's going to feel very heavy to you. The second picture of the guy in the plaid shirt with the black guitar, this is a very modern way of holding a guitar where he just has the guitar rested on his dominant leg and he's got both legs flat. I'm not crazy about this posture either. I can play it. The reason why I don't like it for flamenco is because of how much finger picking we do in flamenco. And when the neck is more horizontal like this, I think finger picking isn't as easy. But if it works for you, then that's the position for you. The third picture is the method I prefer for flamenco. So what he's doing here, this is the modern flamenco posture. So what he's doing here is he's crossing his dominant leg over his non-dominant. So he's right-handed, so he's taking his right leg, putting it over his left leg, and he's resting the guitar in his lap. And you can see that because of this, so I'm sitting in this posture now, you can see that because of that, the neck of the guitar is elevated, which makes it much more easy and comfortable to play compared to the second picture of the guy in the plaid shirt. The last picture is classical guitar position. So I'm also a classical guitarist, so I sit like this when I play my classical material. This is the most different. So you can see that he has his left leg perched up on a footstool. And because of this, when he rests the guitar between his legs, the guitar is very, very elevated. The neck of the guitar is very elevated. And I have played flamenco in this position, and it is comfortable, but some people don't like classical position because they say it puts tension on their back, especially some of my older students have said that. So there's so many different ways to hold a guitar. And it's really a matter of what feels comfortable for you and what gives you, the most comfort. Because we don't want to hurt ourselves in any way, and we want to be comfortable when we play. So experiment with all of these different positions and find the one that works best for you. So I'm going to stop sharing just for a second, and I'm going to show you how I sit, and you can follow along with me. So I'm going to tilt my camera down. So I'm going to show you the flamenco posture, the modern one. So this is how I sit. So take your dominant leg. So in my case, I'm right-handed. So I'm going to take my right leg, and I'm going to cross it over my left leg. And then the guitar will rest on that dominant leg. And you'll see that because of that, I have this angle. It's not flat like that second picture with the guy in the plaid shirt. His guitar was like this, but mine's like this. It's much more comfortable for me. I'm just dangling my leg, but you can also cross it this way. And this creates, let me tilt the camera up. This creates an even more drastic angle in the neck as well. So you can experiment with these. Some people can't sit like this for very long, so feel free to change positions as well and find what's the most comfortable for you. And that's posture. Now let's share the screen again. And let's talk about hand positions. So I'm going to show the pictures first, and then I'm going to walk you through how to do it. So let's start with the right hand. So for the right hand, if you take a look at this picture, his thumb is resting on the low E string, so that's the string that's closest to you. It's the thickest string and the lowest sounding string. And he has this nice curvature as well. It's nice and curled and relaxed. And you can see that the wrist is straight. He's not bent too far one way or another. It's nice and relaxed. And this is just a standard starting position. Of course, we move out of this position as we play, but this is a good place to start. And then the left hand position. So a lot of people have trouble with the left hand. So let's break this down, and hopefully it'll be a little bit easier for you. So if you look at this picture here, his left hand thumb is right directly behind the neck of the guitar. And then this picture here, you see that the fingers are curled and they're being played on the tips of the finger. Not the flat part of the finger, but the very tip, because this helps us push notes easily. So with that in mind, I'm going to show you how I position, and you can follow along again. So let's start with the right hand. So go ahead and get in your sitting position, whichever one you prefer. And I'm going to take my right hand thumb, and I'm going to rest it on my low E string, the 6th string. My thumb is right next to the rosette. So the rosette is the design part of the guitar. And then I just let my hand relax. And I actually like to take these fingers and just rest them on the high E string. So that's the thin string. And you see how relaxed this is? I'm not bent too far this way, and I'm not bent too far this way. I'm nice and relaxed. This is a very natural hand position. And that's the goal with anything we do, is to have a natural position that allows us to play efficiently. So that's the right hand. So one more time, my right thumb rests on the low E string next to the rosette. That's the design. These fingers, I like to rest on the high E. I have this nice curve. I'm not bent too far. Either direction, I'm nice and relaxed. And watch your shoulders too. We don't want our shoulders to be raised and tight. Relax the shoulders, as if you're just sitting naturally. And keep in mind the comfort of just sitting, because that's what we are trying to do. And for the left hand, so I'm going to give you this technique that I learned from Scott Tennant, who's a great classical guitarist. You can find him online. He's written multiple books. But he has this method, he calls it the suitcase method, and I think this is the best way to explain positioning of the left hand. So, drop your left hand towards the floor, like this, and just relax it. And focus on the relaxation. Because we do this in everyday life, right? You know, just walking around, our arms are just dangling, relaxing. So keep that comfort in mind. Now imagine that by your feet, there's a suitcase or a briefcase or a backpack, and you want to grab the handle of that suitcase. If we pretend to grab something, our hand position becomes this kind of C shape, where my thumb lines up underneath my middle and ring finger. So very natural hand position in this C shape. And if you want to test that, if you have like a bottle of water and you want to grab a bottle of water, so I grab it, and then if you just look at the hand position, it's exactly the same. So go ahead and drop your left hand. Think of the suitcase, so you have that C shape. And then from the elbow, we're going to bend up. So we don't want to bend from the shoulder, because that's a lot of tension. I'd be like this, so I don't want that. So bend from the elbow, raise up. Put your thumb on the back of the neck, and you'll see that my fingers are on their tips. They are not flat. They're on their tips. Nice and relaxed. And again, with the left hand, I'm not too far this way, and I'm not too far this way. I'm nice and relaxed in this position. So hopefully this helps you. Even if you have experience on the guitar, I hope this method kind of helps you relieve some tension that might form from putting your hands on the instrument. Because a lot of people build tension just from putting hands on the instrument without even doing anything. So we want to eliminate that as much as we can. Another thing too, that people make mistakes is with the left-hand thumb, where they have it too far this way. And you see this a lot, and any of you that play acoustic guitar, electric guitar, this is very common to see. The reason why in flamenco and classical guitar we don't like this is because I can't move with this. I can't move in this position. You can see how restrained I am. However, if I take that thumb, put it directly behind the neck, now you can see how much more I can move. I'm much more free to do whatever I want. So that's why we do that, especially on a classical guitar and flamenco guitar where the necks are much wider. This is really important. So one more time, get in your position and you can build your right hand. And let's do the suitcase method one more time and focus on the relaxation. So drop your hand, go ahead and breathe for a second. Focus on the relaxation. Imagine you're going to grab the handle of that suitcase by your feet. You got that C shape. Bend from the elbow straight up. Place on the instrument, your thumb is behind the neck. And my fingers are on their tips. My posture is relaxed. I am not bent too far in either direction. I'm just nice and relaxed with no tension. So hopefully that helps you. And that is how to hold a guitar comfortably without tension. And that's the technical stuff we're going to do today. So let's get into the music aspect. So the first palo or style that I like to teach is called the rumba. So rumba is what we call a cante de ida y vuelta. And what this means, if you translate that, it means a song that left and returned, or a round trip song. So the reason why we call it this is because rumba originated in Cuba. So what happened was the Spanish explorers, the conquistadors, they sailed to Cuba, they quote-unquote discovered Cuba, they colonized the island, and the locals were playing this style of music, this rumba. And the word rumba in the old Cuban dialect actually means a party or a celebration. So this is a very festive style, very upbeat style of flamenco. It's known for its strummed guitar rhythms and a festive emotion, what we call por fiesta, for a party. And rumba is also known as the most sexual flamenco palo, but not because sexual in the case of what we think of today with lyrics and stuff like that. The reason why they called it sexual and risque was because of the dance. The dance of rumba has a lot of hip and shoulder movements, which weren't seen in Europe at the time. So this was a whole new thing. This is a Caribbean dance, a lot of African influence as well. They hadn't seen it in Europe at the time. So that's why they thought, oh, this is very risque, this is raunchy. And I guarantee that all of you have heard rumba at least once in your life before, because it sounds something like this. If you hear anything like that in music or movies, that is actually rumba. So I guarantee all of you have heard this at least once before. Go ahead and take a picture of your screen if you want. So these are the chords that we will be using today to do your first rumba. And these chords are also in the Google Doc I sent. I'm going to resend it when I stop sharing the screen. But go ahead and take a picture of these diagrams if you want, especially because in the Google Doc the diagrams were cut out. And I'll give you 5 more seconds if you want to take a picture of this, and then we'll move on to the next slide. So we have an E minor chord, we have a variation of B7, and we have an A minor chord. Okay, I'm about to change slides. 3, 2, 1, change. Okay, and here is the chord progression and the strum pattern. Again, feel free to take a picture of the screen if you'd like. So the chord progression is E minor to B7, E minor B7 to A minor where the harmony changes, then E minor B7, and we finish on an E minor. And I gave multiple strum options for you depending on your level of guitar playing. So the one I will be teaching is this one here. So the letter D represents a down strum and the letter U is an up strum. So we have down, down, up is the one I will be teaching. If you're absolutely brand new to guitar, you can just do 4 downs in a row. That's this one, just down, 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 down. And if you have a little bit more experience on the guitar and you want to do the pattern that I was doing, the fast one, it's down, up, down, up. The X is a hit. We actually slap the guitar. Up, down, up. So you can pick the one depending on your level, and I'll talk briefly about all of them as we go through this. And the reason, if you'll notice, in this one here, the down, down, up, and the advanced drum, I underlined one of the U's. The reason why is because in Rumba, the and of beat 2 is an accent, and that's why it has this groove. So if we count it, it sounds like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So you hear I have an accent on the 2 and. That's what makes Rumba sound so funky and groovy, is because of this. So just keep that in mind. All right, so vamos a tocar. We're going to start playing. So I'll stop sharing. All right, so let's go ahead and start trying to play your first Rumba. So let's start with a chord to start. So we're going to start with the E minor chord. So that's the chord of 2 fingers. And let me share the doc one more time for you guys. Okay, it's in the chat. So feel free to click that link. And I have a Google Doc available for you guys. And that has all the material that you need. And feel free to print it out if you like. This is a page out of my Guitar Method book. So that's my gift to you guys for coming in class today. So feel free to print that and keep it. Okay, so let's start with a chord to start. So we're going to start with the E minor chord. So I'm going to walk you through it in case you guys are brand new to guitar. So this chord just needs 2 fingers. So I'm going to start with my middle finger is going to go on the 2nd fret of the A string, which is not the lowest string, it's the one underneath it. So we have this note. And then my ring finger is going to take 2nd fret of the D string. So the D string is the string underneath the A. So I get this note. And that's all we need for E minor. So if I pick all the notes slowly, E minor sounds like this. Okay, so go ahead and build your E minor, and we're going to talk about strumming the flamenco guitar. So strumming a flamenco guitar is different than how most acoustic players will strum the guitar, because we use our fingers. We do not use picks in flamenco and classical guitar, because we have 5 picks right here that we can use instead of just 1. 5 picks are better than 1, just like 2 heads are better than 1. So let's talk about how to strum with fingers. So to strum down, what I like to do is I like to use my middle and ring finger on my right hand, and I twist down and graze the strings. Go ahead and try this and see how that feels. And notice the movement that I'm doing. All I'm doing is rotating my wrist and the forearm. You may have seen people strum the guitar like this, where they use the entire arm. The reason why we don't do that is because it's a waste of energy and time, because I'm using so much energy to do this. All I have to do is twist my forearm. Think of it like turning a doorknob. It's that same motion that we do. It's just turning the wrist. Or if you are playing foosball and want to kick the guys on the table, you do this motion when you turn the crank, right? We don't do any of this, with the whole arm to turn a doorknob. We just twist. So focus on that aspect and keep that in mind. So to go down, I just use my middle and ring, and I twist down and graze the strings. So go ahead and build your E minor chord, and let's try strumming down together in time. So I'm going to count you in, and you're going to follow along with me. So E minor, so 1, 2, 3, 4. So nice and relaxed. We have done this motion every day in our lives, and now you have an obstacle in the way. That's why it might feel a little weird at first. But keep that in mind. Think of that doorknob, and that helps. Now, to strum up, all we have to do is reverse that movement. So let's say we just did a down. We did our little rotation. To go up, I'm just going to reverse the rotation back up. So same idea. So here's a down, and here's an up. So down and up. So go ahead and build the E minor one more time. And we're going to alternate down and up together. So I'll count us in, and then I'll tell you when to jump in. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's how we strum a flamenco guitar. So keep the movement very small. This will be very important when you want to play fast. I cannot play fast with that whole arm movement that I showed earlier. I would get exhausted in probably 20 seconds of playing that. But we can play very fast by keeping these movements as small as possible. So keep that in mind. Okay. So the pattern that we're using for this rumba is a very common pattern used on the guitar. It's down, down, up, up, down, up. So we have 2 downs in a row, 2 ups in a row, and another down, up. So keep in mind, because we have 2 downs in a row and 2 ups in a row, so after I finish my first down, I have to circle back up to do my second down. And the same thing with the ups. After I do my first up, I circle my wrist back down. So that way I don't break my rhythm. So we're going to do this pattern very slowly to get used to it. So go ahead and also on the E minor. So I'll count us in. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's the pattern that we'll be using for this rumba. Okay, so now let's try switching chords. So we know our E minor. Now we're going to switch to that B7. So we have a flamenco style B7. Most people will know B7 as this chord of 4 fingers. So we're doing that chord, but I don't want my pinky in this chord. I want my open E string to ring. So I'm going to show you an easy way to switch E minor to B7. So here's my E minor, right here. So that middle finger on the 2nd fret of the A string, I'm going to keep that there. I'm not going to pick it up. It's going to be my anchor finger. So my index and ring finger, they will move. So this shape I'm going to switch to, it kind of looks like a triangle. So I still have the 2nd fret on the A string with my middle finger. But now I have my index, 1st fret of the D string, and my ring finger, 2nd fret of the G string. So it's a little triangle. If I play the note slowly, it sounds like this. So you can see that that's much easier than having to pick up all my fingers and put them back down. So keep that anchor finger down, that middle finger, and it will become much easier for you. On camera, it looks like I'm not even moving that much, and that's the goal that we want. So let's try switching between these 2 chords, between E minor and B7. So I'm only going to strum once down every 4 beats, and then I'm going to switch. So it's going to sound like this. So E minor, 2, 3, 4, B7. So that way I'm getting used to switching. So I'm going to count us in, and I'll tell you when to jump in again. So 1, 2, 3, 4. E minor, 2, 3, 4, B7. 2, 3, 4. Jump in, E minor. 2, 3, 4, B7. 2, 3, 4. E minor. 2, 3, 4, B7. 2, 3, 4. One more time, E minor. 2, 3, 4, B7. 2, 3, 4. Good. So that's switching E minor to B7 in an easier way. So we don't have to pick up fingers if we don't have to. So keep that middle finger down, and you'll know where your hand is at all times. Let's talk about the last chord. So the last chord we have is A minor. So we'll talk about A minor, and then we'll put it in the pattern. So if you're an absolute beginner, here's how I like to think of this A minor chord. So go ahead and build your E minor chord, so the one with 2 fingers that we just did. Now, take that shape with the middle and ring finger and move it down 1 string each. So now my middle finger is on the 2nd fret of the D string, and my ring finger is 2nd fret of the G string, instead of where it was originally, where my middle was on 2nd fret of A and ring was on 2nd fret of D. Now my middle is on 2nd fret of D, and my ring is 2nd fret of G. So same shape. But now we're going to add 1 more finger. I'm going to add my index, 1st fret of the B string. So I get this note. And if I play the strings slowly, it sounds like this. And that is A minor. And those are the 3 chords that we need for this rumba. So let's go ahead and break down this progression that we have here. So for the purpose of teaching, I'm just going to do 1 cycle of strum each chord, but you can do 2 if you'd like. So I'm going to play the rumba for you so you can hear what it sounds like, and then we're going to go ahead and break it down. So by the end of the lesson, it'll sound like this. And that is the first rumba that we'll be looking at. So let's go ahead and break this down nice and slow. So start on the E minor, and we're going to do 1 cycle of the pattern. So we're going to go down, down. So go ahead and do that with me. So E minor. And then after that, we're going to switch to our flamenco style B7. So use that method that we did. Go ahead and switch, and then go down, and do the same pattern. So we have B7 down. And then what we just did, it repeats. So we go back to E minor, we do the same thing, and then B7. And like I said too, if you're an absolute beginner, you can just do 4 downs if you'd like. So, and you can do either 1 cycle of the strum, this is what I'm teaching, or you can do 2. And then switch. So let's keep moving through this pattern. So go ahead and follow along with me. We're going to go E minor, B7, E minor to B7, and then we'll move on. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Down, up, down, switch, 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 and stop there. Let's do it 1 more time. Nice and slow. 1, 2, 3, 4. E minor. Down, 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 switch again. And that is E minor to B7. E minor to B7. So that's half the pattern. So, next up, we switch to the A minor chord and the harmony changes. So we have the E7, E7. Now we go to A minor. So this might be a tricky switch, so practice this one very slowly. So let's go E minor, B7, E minor, B7 to A minor, and we'll stop there. So nice and slow. 1, 2, 3, 4. E7. And then to finish the pattern, we just go E minor, B7, and we finish on E minor. So a very repetitive pattern that we have here. So very slowly, let's try combining all of this knowledge, and let's see if you can play your first rumba. So very slowly, follow along with me, start on the E minor. So 1, 2, 3, 4, E minor. All right, good job, everyone. So that is your first rumba. Now, if you want to do a little more advanced rumba, if you are experienced on the guitar, you can do the pattern I did earlier, where we slap, it's hit, so you can do that one in place of the strum I did, or if you're an absolute beginner, will work just fine. And that is your first rumba.